If you clicked on this video, you most probably belong to the 20% of our population who is highly sensitive or has a neurodivergent condition like autism, ADHD or similar. Still, most sensitive people have no clue that they are highly sensitive, or those who know about it feel miserable for having these traits. A lot of HSPs and neurodivergents seem to feel alienated, misunderstood and left out within a society that increasingly gets sicker. But instead of taking the role of victim, I want to encourage you with this video. We can change being a highly sensitive person or being neurodivergent. That's correct. But we can change the perspective and beliefs we have about these conditions. So today you will see that being highly sensitive is an absolute gift. You will understand that HSPs and neurodivergents are just different and not worse or better, and you will understand how you can create a great and fulfilled life as a highly sensitive individual within a not so sensitive society. If you don't want to miss that opportunity, definitely watch or listen this episode up till the end. Welcome to this episode. My name is Robert, and before I start this episode with a personal story today, I want to emphasize that you can also listen to this full episode on your favorite podcast platform, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify or YouTube as well. So let's start right into a personal story of mine that you may also share if you listen to today's episode. Ever since I can remember, I have always perceived emotions very clearly and intensely, even as a small child. Sadness in particular, but also untamed joy and excitement were emotions that I felt regularly. Before Christmas holidays or my birthday, I was often so ecstatic that I would get throbbing headaches and stabbing stomach pains from that positive excitement. However, I wasn't always the hyperactive child. On the contrary, I didn't feel like those extroverted children who were always bursting out with energy. Somehow, I also had a really sensitive side. I was often overwhelmed and withdrew. I wanted to be on my own and for the world to just leave me alone and with myself. Some days I would lock myself in a room for 2 or 3 days, and there I would devote my full attention to a single project, call it autism hyperfocus or flow state, but most of the time I was doing a creative project like building a model city or painting a huge picture. Sometimes I would write a movie script and then invite friends over to shoot, only to hole up again and spend hours in editing the video. I loved romping through the woods with my friends in the summer. I loved leading the group and being there for my friends. And above all, I loved to withdraw completely, to surrender to my imagination and to pursue some creative activity completely in the flow. However, I somehow didn't always feel being on the same level as the others. Because the other children didn't withdraw as much and were more participants in my projects rather than creating them themselves, there was something different about me. But my whole family seemed to be a bit special, so I mostly just accepted being an alien within the group. Still, my difference, my enormous willpower and not rarely stubbornness, the strong sense of my emotions and needs often led to conflicts and arguments. Somehow I felt all these sensations, and yet other people signaled to me that they were not right. This created a lot of shame and guilt around my identity, and therefore a suppression of some of my needs and emotions. Am I actually okay the way I am with my sensitivity? If I am different, don't fit into this society, actually just want to be left alone? I know that many people out there ask themselves these or similar questions again and again, and that's why I want to look with you today at why it's not only okay, but simply great that you are the way you are, whether you are highly sensitive, autistic, have ADHD, or put yourself in any other category. You are great with your emotions and needs, however different they may be. When I later in my life discovered through my first therapy that I might be a highly sensitive person, or through YouTube that I even might have autistic trait, I read a lot of these things and I read some books about them. One was The Highly Sensitive Person by Dr. Elaine and Aaron. That was kind of my entry to the whole topic after years of doing research on myself and my personality. But I also started to look online for HSP content. And what I found, especially on YouTube or on blogs, is that there are so many people out there who feel miserable about the fact that they are highly sensitive individuals. When I read those comments, I just sense that there is so little hope in so many people, and often people also behave like being in a victim role, and it really truly hurts my heart to read through these comments. I feel like there are so many people out there who suffer from the fact that they feel that they do not have power over the situation, that they are somehow wrong and feel so different within a society that is not compatible with them. And yes, being sensitive can definitely be a burden, but it can also at the same time be a huge gift and opportunity. And this gift and opportunity is what I want to focus on in today's episode. What I for myself learned so far through all these books, through reading and doing a lot of research, doing therapy, is that I'm not wrong the way I am. I'm a very sensitive person. I felt alienated in many times of my life. I have a strong sense for my needs, for my desires and emotions, but I also suppress them for a really long time. And therefore, of course, I sense that there is something wrong and that I do not fit into this kind of society. That's definitely inevitable if you get this feedback for such a long time in your life. Now, today I have 10 reasons, actual reasons why being a highly sensitive person or being neurodivergent, being someone with a sensory processing sensitivity is such an amazing gift. First of all, when you have a sensory processing sensitivity, when you have a sensitive nervous system, you are very, very close to your own needs and emotions. And that is even true if some of them may be dissociated because in your childhood or in some life experience you've learned that it's bad that you express certain emotions and needs and that you set boundaries. So trauma caused that you dissociate from some of your needs and emotions, so you can't really access them yet. But I can tell you that you will access them or re-access them in the future, because deep down you definitely know and you definitely feel what is truly right for you and what you need and want in your life. Number two, and because of that characteristic that you inside truly know what you need and want, you will also achieve the goals you want to achieve in your life. And you will also be able to set these goals in your life if you overcome shame and guilt within this process, and you will understand, hey, I am worthy, I can achieve certain goals, I can make that money, I can provide for my family, I can achieve that status and change something in the world. It is truly within the identity of a highly sensitive person to live up to their own imagination and to realize what you truly want and imagine from inside. That's truly possible for you as a highly sensitive person or as a neurodivergent. And number three, because of that imagination, of this strong sense for imagination you have within you, you will have the power to always withdraw within your head if needed, whenever and wherever you want. You might not even need any form of distraction. You might not need social media. You might not need mobile games or whatever amusement other people do. Your imagination, dreaming, and maybe a good book, poetry, or art are enough for you to experience a whole universe within your mind. And number 4, because of that ability to create this imagination within your mind, to create this universe, and that you have this imagination power, you are often extremely creative. That is something that many highly sensitive people, that many autistic people, sensitive people in general have in common, that they are able to create pieces of art, pieces of music, of poetry, video, or they're just quietly within their head creating absolute masterpieces most people won't ever be able to craft because they are not able to see the details. They are not able to bring together this creative and imaginative power we as highly sensitive people have. Another advantage and gift of being really sensitive is number 5, and that is that often people with a sensory processing sensitivity not just feel their own emotions and needs pretty clearly, but they also sense precisely how other people feel. They are able to put themselves in the shoes of other people, and that makes them truly empathetic people. Another benefit of being such a sensitive individual and being an empathetic individual is that you appear extremely trustworthy to other people. So back in the days, you might be someone where people came to tell you their deepest desires, their deepest fears, because you are such an empathetic and trustworthy person. And number 6, many highly sensitive people and neurodivergents are also introvert, but those introvert, empathetic personality type makes them extremely good listeners. So when you are such a person, you might be often quiet on the outside, but as listening to someone else talking, you might be colorful and full of ideas and inspiration in the inside. So when someone tells you about his grief, his problems, you listen carefully. You appear quiet and trustfully, but on your inside you already figure out what's wrong and identify a solution. And other people will value you for exactly that, for mirroring solutions to them and therefore helping them to achieve breakthroughs which couldn't be possible without your ability to listen and to truly sense what is wrong and what the problem is. Number 7, because of that, for this reason, you find sensitive people also working in various jobs which are created, on the one hand, to creativity, on the other hand, often to also human experience. So people who have a sensory processing sensitivity or who are neurodivergent are often outstanding counselors, are therapists, artists, teachers, musicians, kindergartners, doctors, content creators, self-employed consultants, and many, many more. And in the right job, highly sensitive people can blossom up like a flower and thrive to their full potential. Therefore, employers and clients value your accuracy as a highly sensitive person as well as your honesty and sense of moral. And this is true because your sensitivity often makes you a really loyal person, and loyalty is a loved characteristic not just by the employers and clients but also by your partners and family members. Number 9, some of us may also be great leaders who lead with empathy and compassion. And that is an amazing ability because our sense for empathy, first of all, brings people together, and our sense of harmony keeps them together in functioning groups. I believe that many highly sensitive people, also neurodivergents, have not already discovered that they are really, really good leaders because they truly know what is right for a group or for a society. But many of us probably hide behind a curtain because we cannot get over that shame and that feeling that we are wrong. But actually, there are many people out there who would follow that true compassionate sense and that journey, which might be full of empathy and direction, of clarity, because we know so clearly what is actually good for us and what is not. And last but not least, number 10, we are, as sensitive people, just 20% of the population, but without us, and I'm sure about this, the other part of the society would not have been able to survive. Because if we think about it, back in savannah, when wild animals were around, we did spot dangers and problems before they occurred thanks to our highly sensitive sensors. Now, these 10 gifts definitely make up most types of highly sensitive and neurodivergent people. So keep them in your mind when you think that being sensitive is a miserable thing. But we also have to understand that being a highly sensitive person, that being neurodivergent, is a difference and is not a worse or a better thing in any way when you compare that to a neurotypical person. Now, why exactly are our personality types different to, let's say, neurotypical personality types? So the difference lies in the central nervous system, which in people with a sensory processing sensitivity is a bit more adjusted and therefore a bit more sensitive. Now I have this graph here, and this is for demonstration purposes only. And on this graph you see a bell curve. Let's do not discuss if it's correct to put society and the population into a bell curve, but let's just suppose that a society roughly could look like that. Then most of the society are probably non-highly sensitive people who have not such an adjusted nervous system. Then you have the intermediates, which are, let's say, the top 35% of the population, who have somehow sensitive traits, but who are not like really sensitive in a way. And then on the total right side, you have the top 20% of the population, which according to science, according to Dr. Len and Aaron, are the highly sensitive people. And I also include within those 20% other conditions like ADHD, which make up 5 to 6% of the population, or autism spectrum disorder, which makes up around 1% of the population. I think that there is such a huge overlap, as we discussed in the previous episodes, that all of these conditions may be bundled within that highly sensitive part of the population. And again, this is a trait, and this trait is displayed on a spectrum. And this is why, if you have this trait, you are different to someone who does not have that trait. And that trait, as I said also in the previous videos, makes your nervous system more sensitive and therefore changes your perception and your ability to experience certain aspects of reality, such as the experience of dangers, of problems, and therefore also lead to an increased sensation of pressure. So you have a high basic inner tension because you're constantly aware of your environment, which is therefore a typical thing for a sensitive person. If you want to read more about why being sensitive or neurodivergent is different and not better or worse, I definitely recommend you reading such literature. Now, some people still might feel that they are misplaced, that society does not reflect their actual needs, their actual boundaries, and they just feel misplaced within our sick society, which is obviously not made for neurodivergent or really sensitive people. Now, I thought about that a lot because I often also felt that way, that I'm misplaced somehow in that society, that I feel like an alien. But actually, it doesn't help to push the responsibility away and to say, well, this society is not made for me, so I can't do anything in this life and I just have to suffer because I am within a society that doesn't suit me. So I came up with a couple ideas on the question, what can we do if we live in a society, as we do live in, as highly sensitive people, as neurodivergent people who have the feeling that they do not fit in that society? What can we do? First of all, which is truly important, we have to understand that we are different, maybe than other people who make up the majority of this society, but we are not worse or we also not better than these people. We just have different traits. The other people also have different traits, which are not better or worse than our traits. They can stand more stress. They can process emotions quicker. They do not have such a deep impact by grief or anger, for example. But you see that both of these groups have different, that's important, different characteristics and traits, which are, I repeat that, I know, not worse or better than the traits and characteristics of the other group. And that's, first of all, really important to understand. And second, you have to understand that, and I link that to the first point here now, that you have skills the rest of the society does not have, really important, but rely on. So I put that the skills and characteristics of a sensitive person, of a neurodivergent person, now in a really positive light, because without you, without sensitive people, society, and I'm sure about that, wouldn't work that way it works today. Again, remember, back in the days in the savannah, we had to be sensitive. Some people of the group had to be sensitive to spot dangers early on and then inform the group while the others are sleeping. Maybe we do not fight during the daytime, maybe we sleep then, but overall, I think that society wouldn't work that way like it does today if we wouldn't have that many sensitive people. Also, one thing that comes to my mind now is, for example, many people do not have such great access to their emotions, needs, and boundaries as we do have. What do they do if they're burnt out, if they're overworked, if they have struggles within their relationships or any other type of emotional struggles? They go to a therapist, they go to a counselor, to a coach. What is this person actually like most of the times? Most of the times those people are highly sensitive people, are people who have a really good connection to their sense of empathy, to their emotions and needs, and therefore those people who have not such a good access rely on the sensitive people who truly know what's wrong and truly sense their emotions and needs. Number 3, abandoning the role of victim and taking responsibility. This is such a big thing, I know, for many people, especially for us people who think, well, we are misplaced in such society, and it's easy to push away responsibility and behave like, yeah, this world, like most of the world, is just not made up for us, right? And it's true, life's not easy and life's not fair, and we live in such a world which is not made for highly sensitive or neurodivergent people. Yes, that's correct. But does that mean that there is no space for you? Actually not. Does that mean that the world takes your power and your skills from you? No, it's just not correct. So what can you do? Number 4, find a community, find a partner, find a good friend who actually understands you. Not everyone, I think that's also important for many highly sensitive people in your circle, has to be highly sensitive or has to be neurodivergent just to understand you, but understanding itself is important. People who understand you, as well as people who are from the same kind as you, who are more sensitive, those people support you going your own way. And this is the solution. You have to find your own path if you do not feel like you belong to that society. And there are also, as I said, as we see, at least 20% of our society who is like that. So every fifth person has that feeling of being alienated, at least, I think even more, but let's say 1 out of 5 people has that feeling of being alienated, and most people of those do not know that many people also have this kind of sensation. Now, thanks to modern technology, the internet makes it easier than ever to find a community, a partner, a good friend who understands you. If you are an introvert, if you do not like to go out, if you feel uncomfortable in social situations, then the internet makes it easier than ever to find groups, for example, on Facebook, communities on YouTube, on various apps, for example, to find people who are similar to you. That's such an important thing and gives you strength to actually take responsibility and go your own way. And this is number 5, found your own way, your own path. And thanks to the clarity, bring that up in your mind, thanks to the clarity for your own needs and for your own emotions, you can definitely walk your own path. If you do not fit into a classic career path, for example, doing sales or doing extra hours for some employer, then try to become self-employed. And I know that's easier said than done. I did that myself and it took me years to understand the concept of self-employment. But if you truly feel that it's difficult to find a job that actually suits you because you do not have control where to work and when to work, because you don't like to drive out to some other company every day using busy trains or busy streets, then you can also try to become self-employed like I do. I do work most of my time from home because therefore I can easily regulate my states and I feel way better and way more relaxed and not that over-aroused. I made a full episode already about that, which I can link to you up here, how I became self-employed. Another option also is, if you do not feel like that you can take the challenge to become successfully self-employed, to look out for someone who maybe is self-employed, who maybe already hires some other people, who maybe also is a highly sensitive person. And there are couple jobs you could do, for example, virtual assistant. You could do copywriting online for someone or do some fulfillment work for someone who works online. I also hire freelancers to do work with me, and those freelancers sometimes are also more of the sensitive kind because they look for someone who has similar values and who has similar traits and who also wants to work from home. This is why sensitive people really love online jobs. So if you walk through these 5 steps, I'm totally sure that you will find a working path for yourself where you feel fulfilled, comfortable, and enter a life that actually suits your emotions and needs. Now, some final thoughts from my side. It's definitely, this is what I thought, always easier said than done to actually find the strengths to follow your own path, and there will be a lot of challenges on this path. I experienced many of these challenges myself, and there were times where I was just hopeless and I was full of anxiety and fears, and I still am sometimes in different situations. I'm facing a lot of challenges still. But what I have to remember myself on in these situations is that I just keep going what my true inner needs and emotions tell me, because those just direct me through this uncertainty and these states of hopelessness and these states of severe pain and struggling. That's really, really important. Always have to go on, always look for new solutions, for new opportunities, and always keep that in your mind. And I know that some of you might be distracted by some things appearing on the left side, on the right side of your path. But when I can give you one tiny advice, just listen to what you truly want within you. Try to address these certain needs and emotions and follow them and go on, find your community. If you haven't yet, find your path and therefore find relief and a totally, hopefully, fulfilled life in the future as a highly sensitive person or as a neurodivergent person. And if you want to share your story, I'm always curious to hear. Definitely leave me a comment below today's episode. If you want to support this podcast, leave me a like, leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or of course here on YouTube. And I see and speak to you in the next episode. Have a great day.